My name is Andre, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in the bustling city of Moscow back in 2014. It all started innocently enough, with a few swipes on a dating app and a spark of connection with a woman named Olga. Little did I know, this seemingly charming encounter would lead me down a path of danger and deception. Olga and I hit it off right away. Her profile picture radiated warmth and kindness, and our conversations flowed effortlessly. Before long, she suggested we meet in person at a quirky themed restaurant she knew. The place was tucked away in the basement of a nondescript building, giving off an air of mystery that piqued my curiosity. I agreed eagerly, excited at the prospect of a unique dining experience and the chance to get to know Olga better. As I descended the stairs into the dimly lit establishment, I was immediately struck by the eclectic decor. The walls were adorned with vintage posters and neon signs, casting a colorful glow over the space. The chatter of diners mingled with the soft strains of jazz music playing in the background, creating a cozy ambience. Olga was already waiting for me at a table near the back, her smile radiant as she waved me over. I couldn't help but feel a flutter of anticipation as I approached her. We exchanged pleasantries and dove into conversation, losing track of time as we laughed and shared stories. When it came time to order, I let Olga take the lead, trusting her judgment on the menu. Little did I know, that was the first mistake in a series of unfortunate events. The waiter appeared, pencil poised over his pad, ready to take our order. As Olga rattled off a list of dishes, I noticed something peculiar. There were no prices listed anywhere. Brushing off my concerns, I assumed it was simply part of the restaurant's charm. After all, I reasoned, how expensive could a few plates of food be? Oh, how wrong I was. As the evening progressed, our table was soon laden with an array of tantalizing dishes. We ate and drank to our heart's content, lost in each other's company. But when the bill arrived, my heart plummeted to the pit of my stomach. The total amount was exorbitant, several $1,000s for what seemed like a modest meal. Panic gripped me as I tried to make sense of the situation. It was then that the truth dawned on me. I had fallen victim to a cunning scam. Olga, it turned out, was part of an organized group of con artists who preyed on unsuspecting individuals like myself. The restaurant was their hunting ground, and I had walked right into their trap. Anger and betrayal surged through me as I realized the extent of their deceit. Before I could react, two burly men appeared at our table, their expressions menacing as they demanded payment. My protests fell on deaf ears as they loomed over me, their threats growing more aggressive by the second. In a moment of desperation, I knew I had to act fast. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I seized a nearby beer bottle and smashed it against the head of one of the assailants, sending shards of glass flying. Chaos erupted as screams filled the air, mingling with the sounds of scuffling and commotion. Summoning every ounce of strength and courage, I fought my way through the melee, determined to escape the clutches of my assailants. Blood pounding in my ears, I burst through the doors of the restaurant and into the cool night air, my lungs burning with exertion. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone and dialed the emergency number, my voice shaking as I recounted the harrowing ordeal to the dispatcher on the other end. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance, signaling the arrival of law enforcement. As the perpetrators were apprehended and led away in handcuffs, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Though shaken and bruised, I emerged from the ordeal with a newfound sense of resilience and determination. And so, dear reader, let my tales serve as a cautionary reminder. Beware the allure of online encounters, for not all that glitters is gold. Trust your instincts, and never underestimate the power of deception lurking in the shadows. For in the heart of darkness, even the brightest of lights can be extinguished in an instant. My name is Emma, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in the year 2020 in the bustling city of New York. It was a chilly evening in October when I decided to meet Jacob, a guy I had been chatting with on a popular American dating site. Little did I know that this decision would lead me into the darkest, most harrowing experience of my life. As I stepped into the cozy cafe where we had arranged to meet, my heart fluttered with nervous excitement. I scanned the room, searching for Jacob's familiar face. Finally, I spotted him sitting at a corner table, a warm smile playing on his lips. I approached him with cautious optimism, and we greeted each other awkwardly. Jacob suggested that we go for a walk in Central Park after our coffee, and I agreed. We chatted animatedly as we strolled through the park, the vibrant colors of autumn painting a picturesque backdrop. Jacob seemed charming and genuine, and I found myself growing more comfortable in his presence. However, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Jacob's demeanor suddenly shifted. He suggested that we go to a secluded spot he knew, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Alarm bells started ringing in my head, but I brushed them aside, convincing myself that I was just being paranoid. Jacob hailed a cab, and we drove through the dimly lit streets of New York. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. When we arrived at our destination, a deserted parking lot near a convenience store, my anxiety reached a fever pitch. As I stepped out of the cab, I noticed a car lurking in the shadows, its engine idling ominously. Before I could react, a group of masked men emerged from the vehicle, brandishing guns. Panic surged through me as I realized that I had walked straight into a trap. Jacob's friendly facade melted away, revealing the cold, calculating gaze of a predator. He grabbed my arm roughly, his grip like a vice, and shoved me towards the waiting car. My mind raced as I struggled against his grasp, but his accomplices were quick to intervene, overpowering me with surprising strength. I screamed for help, but my cries were drowned out by the sound of screeching tires and muffled voices. In a blur of chaos and confusion, I was thrown into the back seat of the car, my body jostled and bruised by the rough handling of my captors. For what felt like an eternity, we sped through the deserted streets, the darkness swallowing us whole. Tears streamed down my face as I prayed for a miracle. But deep down, I knew that my fate was sealed. Finally, the car screeched to a halt, and I was dragged out onto a desolate stretch of road. The men wasted no time in ransacking my belongings, tearing through my purse with ruthless efficiency. They stole everything of value, my phone, my wallet, even the necklace my grandmother had given me on my 16th birthday. When they were satisfied with their haul, they left me battered and broken on the side of the road, a mere shell of the woman I once was. I lay there, trembling and alone, as the harsh reality of what had just happened washed over me. It was only thanks to the kindness of strangers that I survived that night. Passers-by stumbled upon me lying by the roadside and called for help. The ambulance arrived soon after, whisking me away to the safety of the hospital. In the days that followed, I recounted my ordeal to the police, but despite their best efforts, perpetrators remained at large. They were ghosts slipping through the cracks of the city's bustling streets, leaving behind only shattered lives and shattered dreams. As I lay in my hospital bed, nursing my physical and emotional wounds, I couldn't help but wonder what had driven Jacob and his accomplices to commit such a heinous act. Had it been a desperate bid for money, or had they simply taken pleasure in causing pain and suffering? One thing was for certain: I would never be the same again. The scars of that night would haunt me for the rest of my days, a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the world we live in. But amidst the despair there was also hope, a flickering flame that refused to be extinguished. I refused to let fear dictate my life, vowing to rise from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before. And so, as I gazed out of the hospital window at the city's skyline bathed in the soft glow of dawn, I made a silent promise to myself: no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them head on, armed with nothing but courage and the unwavering belief that light would always triumph over darkness. My name is Michael, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in 2012 in the vibrant city of Phoenix. It's a tale that still sends shivers down my spine whenever I recall the events that transpired. It all began innocently enough, as many stories often do, with a simple swipe on a dating app. I matched with a girl named Ashley. She seemed pleasant enough through our initial chats, and we decided to meet up for coffee one chilly autumn afternoon. As I walked into the cafe, I spotted her sitting by the window, her hair catching the sunlight in a way that made her seem almost ethereal. We exchanged pleasantries, and for a moment, everything felt right. But as the conversation progressed, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. There was a tension underlying our interaction that I couldn't quite place. Nevertheless, I brushed off my reservations and tried to enjoy the date as much as possible. However, by the time we said our goodbyes, I knew deep down that Ashley wasn't the one for me. Her enthusiasm far outweighed mine, and I couldn't see a future with her. I thought that would be the end of it, a mere blip in the vast expanse of my dating life. Little did I know, Ashley had other plans. Days turned into weeks, and I started noticing peculiar occurrences around me. I would catch glimpses of someone watching me from afar, or I would receive mysterious texts from unknown numbers. At first, I brushed them off as mere coincidences, but as the frequency of these incidents increased, I began to grow uneasy. Then one fateful night, I returned home from work to find my apartment engulfed in flames. The acrid smell of smoke filled the air, and panic surged through me as I realized what was happening. Without a moment's hesitation, I called the fire department and stumbled out onto the street, coughing and gasping for air. It was only later, as I lay in a hospital bed with bandages covering my burnt skin, that the full extent of Ashley's obsession became apparent. She had stalked me, learned where I lived, and orchestrated this heinous act of arson in a twisted attempt to win my affections. The physical pain was excruciating, but it was nothing compared to the emotional trauma of realizing that someone was willing to destroy my life simply because I didn't reciprocate their feelings. As I underwent surgery after surgery to repair the damage done to my body, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of person could be capable of such cruelty. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Despite the odds stacked against me, I emerged from the ordeal stronger than ever. The scars on my skin healed, and though they served as a reminder of the horrors I endured, they also symbolized my resilience in the face of adversity. As for Ashley, justice caught up with her swiftly. She was apprehended by the authorities and brought to trial, where she faced the full consequences of her actions. Though I struggled with forgiveness, I knew that harboring hatred in my heart would only hold me back from truly moving on. In the end, I chose to focus on rebuilding my life and reclaiming my sense of security. I surrounded myself with loved ones who supported me unconditionally, and together we forged ahead into the future, leaving behind the shadows of the past. But the scars, both physical and emotional, lingered long after the flames had been extinguished. Nightmares haunted my sleep, and the fear of encountering another Ashley gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. It took time, therapy, and a great deal of introspection to come to terms with what had happened and find peace within myself. However, amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope. I discovered newfound strength in my vulnerability, and I learned to cherish each day as a precious gift. The experience, though harrowing, had taught me valuable lessons about resilience, compassion, and the importance of setting boundaries. As the seasons changed and life gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy, I found solace in the small moments of joy that dotted my days. Whether it was sharing laughter with friends, indulging in my passions, or simply basking in the warmth of the sun, I refused to let the shadows of the past dictate my future. And so, as I sit here, recounting this harrowing tale, I am filled not with bitterness or resentment, but with gratitude for the strength that carried me through the darkest of times. My name is Sophia, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in the summer of 2020 in the bustling city of New York. I still shudder at the memory of that fateful evening, the events that unfolded, and the unexpected turn my life took. It was a warm Friday evening when I decided to meet up with a guy named Alex, whom I had connected with on a dating app. We had been chatting for a while, and he seemed like a genuinely nice guy. Little did I know that this seemingly harmless encounter would turn into a nightmare. We decided to meet at a cozy cafe in the heart of the city. As I walked into the cafe, I spotted Alex sitting at a table by the window, eagerly waiting for me. He flashed me a charming smile as I approached, and we exchanged pleasantries before diving into conversation. At first, everything seemed to be going smoothly. We laughed, we shared stories, and I found myself enjoying his company. However, as the evening progressed, I noticed a shift in Alex's demeanor. His once charming smile now seemed more sinister, and his eyes held a predatory gleam that sent a chill down my spine. Uncomfortable with the sudden change, I tried to politely excuse myself, but Alex insisted that we take a stroll in the nearby park. Against my better judgment, I agreed, hoping that maybe I was just overthinking things. As we walked through the dimly lit paths of the park, Alex's behavior became increasingly aggressive. He began making lewd comments, groping me despite my protests, and ignoring my clear discomfort. Panic began to rise within me as I realized that I was in a dangerous situation. Desperate to escape, I tried to push him away, but he only grew more violent. In a sudden fit of rage, Alex struck me across the face, sending me sprawling to the ground. Dazed and disoriented, I watched in horror as he rifled through my belongings, stealing my phone and purse before disappearing into the darkness. Alone and shaken, I struggled to gather my thoughts as tears streamed down my cheeks. It was then that I heard footsteps approaching, and I looked up to see a group of strangers rushing to my aid. They helped me to my feet, offering words of comfort and support as they called the police. In a daze, I recounted the events to the officers who arrived on the scene, my hands trembling as I struggled to find the right words. With their assistance, I was able to file a report, and they assured me that they would do everything in their power to apprehend my attacker. Days passed, and I found myself consumed by fear and anxiety, constantly looking over my shoulder and jumping at the slightest noise. The thought of facing Alex again filled me with dread, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Then one morning, I received a call from the police informing me that they had apprehended a suspect matching Alex's description. My heart raced as I made my way to the station, praying that justice would finally be served. As I sat in the interrogation room, watching through the one-way mirror as Alex was brought in handcuffed, a wave of relief washed over me. Despite his attempts to deny his involvement, the evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was ultimately charged with assault, theft, and harassment. Though the scars from that night may never fully heal, I refuse to let fear dictate my life. I am grateful for the kindness and compassion shown to me by strangers, and I am determined to reclaim my sense of security and independence. So, as I reflect on the events that transpired, I am reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of community in the face of adversity. And though the road ahead may be long and challenging, I know that I am not alone.